Perfect. So, Megan, can you confirm, can see the screen okay?
Yep, all good.
All good. Awesome. As always, just want to say massive thank you for taking the time out of your day. We would love to keep this as interactive as possible. I'd really urge you to use the chat box. Megan's on the call, who runs pretty much all sales for us across really the Northern Hemisphere, everywhere across Europe, EMEA, and then North America as well. And also Enrico, our my co-founder, who's essentially built the platform. He's spending a few months back home in Italy with his family, but we're all on the call. Would love to just absorb whatever queries and questions you've got. We typically run these sessions when it's, hey, look at these new updates and features that have come out. Although we'll touch on some roadmap, I really want to use this time to provide best practice and all the sort of patterns we're seeing across all of our partner base. How can you get more out of the system? Okay, so in terms of the layout, so we know that there's features that aren't getting leveraged to its full capability, and they really should be. And we'll give you some insight into some of the ways that our partners are leveraging different aspects of it. We will dive into the new release around Microsoft. It's imminent now, and again, just hope that there's a few questions that come through. That we asked on email maybe 6 weeks ago, what would you like to see on a session if we were to run it? And we've collated some of those questions into categories, and we've looked to try and sort of nail them in terms of deck, in terms of story, as well as, of course, jumping into the product and actually going through how we use it every day and how certain partners of ours are using it every day as well. Okay. This is one of the coolest quotes that I heard just it was actually last week. And this partner really leverages the MRR Insights, which is a module which many of you on this call be like, I've kind of heard of it, don't really use it. What's this thing? We know that about half of our partner base don't leverage this. They spend all their time in the reconciliation module. We've got a partner out in Sweden actually who was explaining that on a Monday morning, their huddle is pretty much using the MRR Insights within CloudOlive. And for us to hear that was just so cool. And it drove us to go, right, we need to make sure that what we're spending our time learning and then building is getting leveraged across all of our partners, or at least to have a really good understanding in terms of the problems that is setting out to solve, and then see how you can weave it into your own business, if of course it is of value to you, which I suspect some of the stuff we go through today absolutely will be. So in terms of the questions that came back to us from a range of our partners, we've looked to bucket them, if you will, into these 3 different areas. But there's a really common theme of like, what should I look at next? Okay, cool, I fixed the unit counts. What should I look at next? And even when we're on calls with the partners that we're working with, it's a really common question that we get. What else is there? What's next in the reconciliation? What should we be looking at next? We've documented now a 10-step process that we recommend if you want to do this like absolute bulletproof end-to-end and have all the ideas of what gaps there may be. The other one was, hey, how do other clients do this? How do they handle annual purchases of Microsoft? How do they handle the renewals that are coming up for these different vendors? How are we managing X, Y, Z? So we sort of bucketed into this section here. And then, of course, I love this one. It's like, where else is there money, right? You found this, the revenue leakage. Cool. What else have you got here? So these are the 3 sort of overlying areas that we'll explore throughout this today. And then in terms of the agenda, first and foremost, it's helping get more out of CloudOlive in your day-to-day operation. Okay, so we've broken this down into 3 areas: organization, confidence, and then for yourself to become the absolute billing boss and the oracle of all information to do with vendors, PSA construct, and of course, how much money you're making on individual line items, like true underlying visibility. We will share we will share the product and go through in our dev environment, the Microsoft update. We're really, really close now to releasing this, and we want to both educate because it's maybe a few weeks out now, but also want to just give you an idea of what the delay was, what we've learned along the way, what to expect when that arrives in the next couple of weeks, and then what we're doing about it. All right. And then again, there's been a few questions that have cropped up, which we'll no doubt cover off throughout, but do feel free to pop them into the chat as well. And we'll try to do it in flow. If not, there should be time at the in the end. So let's look at this here. So how can we maximize the value that you're getting out of CloudOlive? The partners that we're working with that are really, really embedded, we see them just adding in more and more vendors all the time. So they might not start with 100% from day one. They might have one or two that are real problem areas. It's like, great. But now they're up to 6, up to 8. Like we've got a partner who's got 17 different vendors. Now, our philosophy around this is if you've got a vendor that you find is a little bit trickier, like they're the ones that we will be able to, that just works beautifully within CloudOlive. Likewise, in reverse, if you've got a service that you're reselling, so there's a line item inside of your AudioTask or ConnectWise that your customer sees, okay, you should be verifying that before the client actually sees that. So they're the ones that we want to help with. In terms of the array that we now do, like we've got over 150 different vendors, distributors, you name it, all over the world, not to mention all the custom Power BI reports or you name it. If you've got any data set, really, any data set at all, either limited or extensive, like it's highly likely we'll be able to do exactly what we do with all of the other ones. So after this call, just have a think. Are there others in your business that you wish could be bought in and just periodically or ideally on a monthly basis, just reconcile it down so you have true confidence around it? As I said, there's north of 150, and highly likely next week with a new partner that will come on, there'll be one or two more that will no doubt just grow in this list. I'm going to jump into the product now around how can we help you reduce clicks when it comes to using CloudOlive, okay? And just a few tips and tricks or best practice that we've noticed that we internally use this day in and day out, and other partners are doing, and we've learned a lot from other partners as well in the way that they're doing certain things. But just want to share some of these and see what you can take away. Okay, cool. So as we come into this section that everyone's going to be super, super familiar with, one of the things that I just want to start with is we have a URL place within CloudOlive where you can actually store. So the example here would be we're coming in, we need to do Datto or Kaseya now, and we know that it's all just centralized in CloudOlive, and we know we also need to go into a vendor portal in order to download something. So we can actually begin storing links at the vendor level like this. And where that's stored is just in behind here, in this field here called input URL, okay? And the cool thing about that is every time now that we rebuild from previous month, which I'll actually show a workflow around this and give you an idea of what it is, the logic that is underpinning that specific function. But the cool thing about it is this URL will travel with this vendor every single month and just be visible there for you one by one, okay? The other thing that's quite useful is this due date, okay? The due date, whatever date you pick within July in this instance, is just going to stay within this month here of July. So the way in which we see our partners, like the masses will use it as everything's the first, everything's like one date, whatever it was initially set up as. One thing you can just consider, because the reports become available to you at different times in the month, okay? So one really smart way to do this is actually move the due date to say the 6th, okay? We buy from distributor A, their information is not available until the 6th, okay? And the benefit of doing it in that way, you can then come in here on the 7th or 15th or 8th or 2nd or whatever. And when you sort by that, if something's past that date and still has not started, like Kaseya is a really good example, right? Because that invoice, if you run it off of an invoice, does come available roughly around the 6th. So here's a good example where we're on the 17th of the month now. Come in here, due date on the 6th, something's not started. We've got a link here. Let's go in there and reconcile it. Or if there's someone's responsibility around doing that task, it's just a little bit of workflow improvement to go, why hasn't this been done as readily as it possibly should be? And again, when we look at the build from previous month, okay, so we're in July, we're in August, we had 3 vendor shells, okay, only one actually had data in it from the prior month. So when I click build from previous month, lo and behold, this will only show me the vendors that had data actually imported in it the prior month, okay? So the reason why, around about, I don't know, 12, 18 months ago, we had it that it just automatically built, and it would just, like when you do build from previous month, it will grab everything and bring it through. But what we learned was as our partners were consolidating vendors or changing vendors, they'll end up with this, almost like this extended graveyard of 5 or 6 vendors that were just chased and that were never actually getting reconciled anymore, or a couple of vendors. So the way we went around this is, if you do build from previous month, then you do, in our case, 3 vendors at the moment that we can see, and only 1 comes through. It's a good indicator to go, oh, we actually didn't do it we never imported data for the month of July, okay? So what would you do from here? A couple of different options. Like, come down to all months. We're looking for Datto, or it's typically sorted by sort of the date anyway, or it can be. So when we come back through here, we go, okay, cool. Well, here's the Datto one. I can then click on here, and up to you, bring it forward into July or August in this case, or likewise, actually go through the process and reconcile it for the prior month. The only downside of skipping a month is month-on-month changes, such as warnings, what has dropped off, is not going to be visible because it doesn't exist. Okay, that's really the only thing to be considerate of when it comes to that. The other piece that partners of ours, more and more are picking this up, is using the common features, which are pretty consistent now across the board. So you can notice this little box here. This is static for 1 month, okay? But it's really, really useful to save you having to click in and go through everything one by one, or if there's multiple people working on it, just leaving yourself a little reminder. You can always go back, if we're in September of this year, you can always go back to July and actually review that information as well, okay? Now, the last thing around reducing clicks, if you remember, that's what we're on right now. Reducing clicks, one of the bigger time savings that I've certainly found for myself is when I'm doing the load in of data on a monthly basis for partners that just email stuff to support ad or drop it into the Dropbox. Hopefully everyone knows now that this has the previous file. So the last known upload that we did should be the most accurate. It should have the latest formulas if things have been tweaked. If the vendor had changed things, it's likely been picked up and adjusted and put in for the prior month. So this is really helpful to know that that's the sort of latest and greatest. We do have a lot of partners that do store things locally, and that's totally okay if you've got a good process. We really like the idea of just having it here. And the other thing that I've personally got set up on my own browser is when I click that, it not only automatically downloads, but it also automatically opens up as well. So just removing a few clicks. The other thing that we've got down here, you can see my downloads just at the bottom there. When I now save this, save as, and we're in, call it July, save that there. I can obviously get rid of that. I've got it sorted by date added, probably super small for people, but it's now just the latest and greatest one that I can drag in there, come down, submit and upload, and away we go. Super, 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 super clean and quick. And obviously we've done the data transfer within that process, but we save it, we bring it in, and then away we go, okay? This last piece, solve all issues. I reckon anyone who's been working with us for a while has likely thrown us some epic curveballs. You're like, no way you guys will be able to do this one. No way you'll be able to think of a way to solve this edge billing case. No way anybody's ever had to sort of think about this before. We always want to be seen as, if you've got some form of billing challenge or some form of data challenge when it comes to recurring services, that CloudOlive should be able to elevate that for you. So an example around this is, like, can we have the billing frequency and the commit terms around Microsoft visible on every single line? Again, if the data from the vendor provides it, we can totally bring it in. Another example would be, hey, we want to know the expiration dates of like the subscriptions on Kaseya or Datto or whichever one we're talking about. Again, if there's a date field in there, we can then elevate and bring that into the system and then make it visible, okay? So we can pretty much merge any data set into anything and then make it searchable based on a keyword that makes sense for yourself. So an example here would be monthly annual commit, okay? We want to know monthly. Of course, the vendor never gave us that in one specific column where it had service name and billing frequency and this all in one place. Of course it didn't. Like, we've merged these different things together, or even gone to the extent of looking at the start and the end dates of these subscriptions, and then actually inferring what type of contractual terms you have in place, so then we can give you that information. Why that's important is, like, monthly versus monthly annual for a standard or a premium, whatever, they should have their own consistent home within your Autotask or ConnectWise, okay? And when you get, as you scale and as you grow, it more and more becomes likely that these start getting paired to slightly different things and it starts to fall away slightly. The other useful thing around this is, like, especially around the yearly stuff, like if I look at yearly here, something like this, like a yearly annual, if we tell CloudOlive at the vendor level, pretty much everything's monthly. We're buying stuff monthly. However, at a line-by-line item basis, for reporting purposes, you may want to say, actually, this is a yearly purchase from the supplier. We know that because of this yearly annual thing, okay? So it was right practice there, right practice. So if you know that there, now that I've just tagged it as, hey, no, this thing's actually a yearly, the vendor service now has this little Y icon. This just indicates to us that that when CloudOlive does its monthly calculations, because we want to know monthly MRR, it's taken into consideration that this is a one-time thing of 12 months. So we actually do the division as we go through it. So if you see a line item which has like eye-watering amount of negative margin on it, it could be that it is a annual purchase, but we haven't told it from the vendor side, okay? So that's there's a couple of sort of tips and tricks to go through. The last one that is used very heavily once it becomes second nature to it is, you've got a static last month, what it actually looked like the prior month. And the cool thing about it is you can then, of course, search for, like, have search up here or down there, search up here as well. And it will just leave you with the history of whatever happened from the prior month. And you can drill into it and have a look at it without having to, like, actually go into, like, downloading lots of PDF invoices and try to make sense of it. Like, it's all in this screen. So do make sure that you're leveraging this information here, especially if there's a warning sign inferring that there's a drop off of a line item. Like, you can just search for whatever dropped off last month and then have a look at it. Okay, super simple. That information is always going to be residing down below. Okay, cool. So the next one I want to jump into is really the bird's eye view of all of your recurring billing. So of course, when we have all of your vendors listed out here and getting done on a consistent basis, going to have really tight control from a vendor cost down. Okay, that's pretty much why everyone goes with us in the first place. The other piece that I want to talk through at length now is actually the MRR Insights module. Okay, this module is a replica of every recurring billing item that's going through your Autotask or ConnectWise. Okay, we've then, as you can see, we've added some intelligent tagging across it to flag you where there's things that are coming up or have recently passed. So expiration of contracts or within ConnectWise language, if additions are cancelling in the near future, we will tag all of them. We'll tag all of them for you. But the real power of this is these numbers here will indicate the unique number of things that are below it. Okay, so an example would be we've got 30 clients that we've got recurring billing items for. We've got 72 contracts, 33 unique services that go through our business, the quantum of the total unit counts. And then really cool over here, we've got our total revenue, which you can undeniably trust because that is a bookend of the amount of money that you're going to get paid when you invoice your partners. Okay, this total cost column or sum of total cost, we want to tidy that up. And of course, we'll look at a little way to help with that from the reconciliation module. But we want your cost to be as accurate as possible within your AudioTask or ConnectWise. And one of the other cool parts around this actual module is if you go right, I just want to see who runs. Let's pick a service here. So I'll bring this and just go. Let's just see who runs. Okay, cool. So we got one service. We got this many units that we're billing. Here's the revenue on it. These are the 10 customers on it. Like really quick. Like just think how long that would take to, in AudioTask language, maybe build a live report or possibly some dashboard that had less than 25 names or something, trying to make sense of it. And the other piece that you can begin to see at a glance is line by line. Like this one's probably okay, right? We're selling it, it's bundled into something else. That's satisfactory. We're okay with that. However, one of the things that we've picked up and like it's pretty much just every new partner that we bring on, the data syncs across. We can tell a couple of things. How well implemented that AudioTask or ConnectWise has been, largely from the construct of the service naming convention, big one. The volume of contracts that's been a decision point in the business. Okay, cool. When we pair these things together, we've got a pretty good understanding out the gates of how stressful month end must be for partners or not. Okay. But one of the things we've now trained ourselves to come and have a look at, I'll see if I can find one, hopefully. See if I can find one. There's something like this down here. It's a weird amount of time. So this is looking at the sell price, unit sell price. This is looking at the unit cost. My thinking around this is, in AudioTask in particular, we find this quite regularly is the two fields that you have is cost and price, or price is sell and cost is cost. And it's not obvious and they're pretty close to each other. When these aren't zero, when the sell price is not zero, a lot of times, a lot of our partners that we find are actually, they've just got the numbers back to front. So they're literally losing money on those line items, or at best selling it at cost. And it's been really consistent. It's one of the first things that we sort of scan through. And just on the first call, we go, hey, you might just want to take a peek at a couple of these. They don't look quite right. Some of the other things that we've added in here is consistent with the reconciliation module. Like, we believe that giving you insight into a recurring monthly business is the healthiest metric to keep like really lockstep in. So if you notice here, like everything here is monthly, unless it's got a little tag on it to go yearly, quarterly, or semi-annual is another billing frequency. And then we naturally do the calculations of revenues this divided by that to give you a monthly comparison point. So again, everything up here is drilling down into a monthly piece. And these little icons here that have the reds here, this is just indicating that there's 0 units getting pulled back from the PSA for this billing cycle. The data we're reading is like up to date as of the month that we're in. Okay. And you can then begin filtering these out. You're like, cool, all right, yeah, it ended recently. We understand that the customer's doing whatever, they're upgrading to a new license type. We're expecting that. Then you can actually begin filtering these things away and it becomes even cleaner. Okay, so this is grateful for the feedback to actually get that filter added. The next piece that this screen has that we released probably 12 months ago now is there's a lot of patterns that exist within the service conventions of Autotask or ConnectWise, right? There's, even though they're completely standalone to one another, that we can build groups of items, okay? And even just by building a group of device things, cool thing is you can then just filter on it super quick, see who's got what. Like, it's just handy information, all right? We think that this is useful. We will come back around and show you where the real workflow improvements and highlights come from adding on a touch more capability that's already been built into the system. But we would really urge people to begin leveraging this. It will save you about 7 clicks per sort of data point that you're trying to find out of your relevant Autotask or ConnectWise. And also, as of the last release, you can leave yourself a comment on a line item that's similar to the other module, will retain itself. So you see this here, like I've just typed the word canceling into there. And then good thing is you can then just see it, you can index it. So again, be structured with the way that you put the wording in there, but it can be really easy and helpful way to then just track things that's going through your business. And coming back to which vendors and services should CloudOlive be reconciling, our MSP here has about 190 that flow through our business. We should be trying to verify as many of these as makes sense to, like 80-20, which of these do the clients see? They should be verified. They should ideally be verified as frequently as possible, ideally every month. Okay, cool. So the next one is the 10 steps to cut billing risk. Truth is, we probably should have bought something out a little bit earlier in terms of like what do we think is the smartest approach to go boom, 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 and just work through it. The number of new partners and the number of new staff into our partners, and they go, hey, we're new to CloudOlive. I know such and such been working with you for a while. Where do we start? Okay, so what we've now built is a much more robust and structured way where this is the same link, I should note, that many of our partners have had for quite a while. We've just overhauled it completely. Important to note, the original videos that were there and you may look for, you can find them just here, and it's got them all just here. We've just adjusted this around a little bit. So we used to say, hey, you're newish to CloudOlive, watch these 7 minutes of videos, you'll be comfortable with mapping everything. Oh, now you want to understand, okay, the things are off and you just work your way through it. Well, that was useful. It was super useful, actually. We think now's the time to grow up a little bit more. So if we have a look at what we've got up here, who are you in terms of what you're looking for? So everything from, hey, we're brand new, or hey, we're just accessing the insights at the moment. I'm new to the platform, but our company's been using it for a while, or we're super users here. Let's learn more. Let us what advanced stuff have you guys been bringing out? So they all have hyperlinks down to the different areas, right? So you can click in and go, okay, we'll come down to the terminology piece. Just zoomed in a bit. But the whole idea here is that giving the naming conventions that we've got, housekeeping, of course, like we really recommend and would urge everybody here as an admin user of CloudOlive to enforce 2FA at a database level so all of your users have it. Okay, the information of how to do that's in there. A whole majority of our partners do it, but not everyone. We would feel more comfortable if everybody had that, as I'm sure you would as well. And of course, those who are doing single sign-on, obviously that's secure as well. But what we've then broken it down is best practice on the left-hand side, and then the common FAQs or questions that typically come up. So per module, MRR insights down here. What are some of the actual common questions that you're likely to begin asking that up until now, we've typically been handling these in a one-to-one basis via email. And then here's the main one here. Okay, so how do we reconcile? We've broken this down into 10 steps that goes through one by one and gives you everything that you need to feel totally confident and comfortable of everything being reconciled, bulletproof, okay? And then on the right-hand side, as you're going through this, and this really elevated to me the number of questions that come back. There's a lot of data there. There's a lot of merging of information. And when we indicate that something's red or negative, like it should be cause for concern. The calculations we're doing is normally that minus that. So if it's red, it typically is a problem that should be looked at, okay? When there's lots of red, it's like, where do we start? How do we do this? So working your way through this will give you confidence. Doing it month 1, great. Doing it month 2, it'll be so much faster just by following this process and working through it. And of course, over here, we've got the items that will likely happen. Like what do we do when we've got split billing? We've got what do we got here? Vendor shows 5 lines of 1, but CRM shows 1 line with 5 units. How do you do that? Okay. These will all have breakdown now of how we actually go about addressing these with commentary around it. So hopefully this really, really helps. Like what happens when you can't map a line? What are the options? Should we pass it, hide it? Like what would CloudOlive actually recommend? So when we're implementing new partners, like these are the steps that we commonly work through. One of the things that obviously you don't necessarily need to have is the unit costs associated with all that, like the cost associated with the vendors we're doing. If you just want to line up unit counts, totally reasonable, totally get it. Things like RMM. But when we're talking about solving some of the edge cases, if you're buying 1,000 units of something for $2 each, and you've got an awesome deal at the end of a quarter from one of the vendors, and you've only got 800 of those deployed, we should give you that information, or you should really want that information. Hey, we've got 200 usage, not like on the shelf at the moment. Oh, we got 180, it moved by 20, or vice versa. Like their costs to your business, which in our eyes, like what should I do with my own internal costs? Our recommendation for these things is stick it on a contract on your own company, map it as if you're supplying it to your own vendor, just so you get really good insight into what is actually happening. And if something spikes from the vendor, like you're just going to spot it. You'll be able to jump in and actually speak to the vendor and work out potentially what has actually happened. We do have many partners that just choose to hide those lines. We recommend, as I said, just map them back, treat yourself as your own client in that instance. But this here will hopefully address many of the questions that you and also new staff members that come on may have now or into the future. There'll be a QR code at the end of this at the webinar, so you'll be able to then take the link and you'll be able to then sort of use it for yourself as well. We'll also, of course, send it out to everyone after the fact. Okay, cool. So they're the 10 steps. The other one is just, if you're using it every single month, like we've got it pretty dialed in now to go, if you bring on a new vendor, like however tricky it is, it really doesn't matter. Or a new partner now, it's like, we expect 2 billing cycles for everything to be bulletproof. Like it takes 1 to figure some stuff out, switch off some overbilling sort of issues and that you've got in from the vendor side, or offboarding issues that will also get elevated and highlighted. But it should be 2 billing cycles. And I think even quicker now, if we follow these steps, it's just going to elevate everything. Every single type of issue that could arise or billing risk will be elevated for you to then just go, cool, well, let's make sure that doesn't happen next month. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about eradicate process weakness. I think the billing boss, the billing oracle is not just someone that makes sure the customers pay their invoice on time and customers are happy and that builds trust. That's a really important part of it, okay? The information that's readily available at all of our partners' fingertips extends far wider than just invoicing, okay? The information that we'll work through now and sort of elevate is like it touches all of the different departments, especially the technicians, especially the onboarding, offboarding processes. So one of the extensions to the MRR Insights module is the ability to group services together that are completely standalone in the world of Autotask ConnectWise. Like we've got here this service, and then this thing here from a per device grouping. So these are our device-based purchases and or the way in which we sell these items. So what we're doing now here is we're going to provide a bird's eye view from a per device perspective. And we've said server and workstation in our MSP, this plus this should equal this. Hence, we've made this a primary and this a primary. So if a customer has both of these, 1 + 1, that thing should be 2. If it only has one of them, 1, this thing should be 1. Okay, it's got some really cool smarts in behind it. But what this then means, the second we then add this in, and why we love this and why we've had so many great, but also highlighting stories of partners that we're working with, is it's going to paint a picture very quickly. The second you sync this thing together, add a few groups, add a few services, come straight back in here, pull down your group here, okay? And then you'll notice this little button here. It says show lines that have errors. All right, so when I click this, it goes, okay, so out of the 190 odd lines, we've come down to the device. It's got X number of lines, 15 or so it was. And there's one line that has a relationship from the primary to the secondaries that are out of sync. Cool, let's have a look at it. So we're selling 32 of this. And it's saying, oh, hang on a sec, it should be, CloudOlive is suggesting that the count should be 38 in this instance. Oh, we're underbilling in this case by $60. Okay, cool. It's up to you what you do with that information. It's about elevating hard to find information. And again, we've added the comment section so you can leave yourself a note because there's edge cases everywhere. We get that. We totally understand that. However, if we want to then go, okay, well, Excelsior Design, let's give us a little bit more information around this. Take that off, come back over here, quickly scan this, and it's going, okay, cool. Well, here are my 3 things that are associated with this group for this individual client. Here, that plus that equals 38. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, we're undercooking this. We need to dive in and actually try and understand why this is, or how this is sort of drifted from what should have been in lockstep. Okay. Our job, again, is to give you the hard to find information. It's then up to you how you wish to leverage that. So this here has been one of the most incredible feedback loops that we've heard from partners. And the consistent theme is, oh, we didn't realize that we had this gap in our offboarding process. And now we've been able to at least drill in and try to figure out a solution company-wide. Okay, the user of CloudOlive can get this data within seconds. Okay, completely in seconds. And if you've got any of the, say, distributors and stuff that maybe are feeding things in automatically and on a nightly basis, the cool thing is this stuff is readily available every single day. So you can catch this drift as it's actually happening through the month and get on top of it far quicker. Okay, so we would really urge you, begin using the MRR Insights, have it open. You'll be amazed at how many problems and queries and questions it immediately answers for you super quick. Another one that we often see is, this service we've deactivated at database level, but if it's still on the contract level getting built out, that thing won't deactivate. Okay, so we find these things all the time. We do also search the invoice description in here. So if you search there, if you've got codes or things underpinning it, like it's going to fetch that information as well. So begin using it. We will also add way more capability to this screen in the not too distant future. Like a key one for us is actually a reverse reconciliation of the vendor's got 10 lines, but we've got 11 in the PSO. Like, how can we give you that information? We're thinking just like a checklist down the right-hand side of when something was last reconciled. So then you've got far more control. We've got 190 lines, 180 of them get reconciled through CloudOlive. We've only done 160 this month. What are the 20 left over? Why is that? That type of information is really important, and it's not that far away, but it will be driven off of this screen here, 100%. We'll continue to build out this the capability that we see here. So use it and give us feedback. Like, push us to build the greatest product that you need to make your life easier. We want to hear it all. When it doesn't, like when it's not great, when it's not giving you, we want to hear absolutely everything as direct as possible, because we really want to listen and just build something cool with you. Okay. Perfect margin and visibility. Twofold here. First one, I really recommend jumping into this screen, scan through the line items. Where do you have revenue and a non-zero revenue and a cost that is less than that? Have a look at the margins, scan the things that are red, Scan the things that are red and just work out, are we okay with that or is that a problem? Are we okay? Again, not great there. This is obviously probably the wrong way around once again for our AudioTask database or ConnectWise database, whatever. It's a really weirdly common thing that we find. So I wouldn't be surprised if you looked at it yourself to go, hey, there's a quick fix for us that we can just make a little bit more money on. I totally understand it. The two fields are so similar to one another. Okay, that's one side of it. Just by getting this right does not ensure 100% that your unit cost, this thing here, is accurate from the vendor side. So one of the tips and tricks, if you will, down here is confirm the vendor and CRM unit cost match. Okay, so again, if you've got a vendor that you don't use the cost for, we've got this toggle, just focus on unit counts, happy days. Cool, no problem. However, we should be bringing them in at least periodically. We can hard code in the cost of WebRoot or RMM or whatever. We can even do the calculation of that 800 versus 1,000, like what we've been deployed versus what we're costing. Like we can do the calculation, say, no, your actual cost is X per unit if you just want to factor it into the 800. At very least, we should be going, we've got 1,000. We should have another line item here that says internal or overage use or shelf life, or you pick a word that makes sense to you. And you're going to be able to map it back and treat it and see changes that come month on month. However, we're talking about the perfect margin calculation here. This toggle here show lines where the vendor units don't match what's inside of our AudioTask or ConnectWise at a service by service level. So we got 20 lines, 11 of them don't match. Okay, if you want your AudioTask data to be bulletproof, which we want to help you to, or your ConnectWise data, we want this stuff to be like you guys just to be able to rely on this. Also, I should know, really handy if you've got smart naming conventions from a bundle perspective and you break things out on a contract level, but maybe put all the revenue against one line. Keyword search here, and then index at a customer by customer level if you want, or multi-customers, or do a search on that keyword that sort of indexes just those contracts. We give you that information, like revenue versus cost and all the rest of it. It's so accurate. It's so quick as well and dynamic to get that info. But it does require us making sure that these things match as often as possible. Okay. And again, work through those 10 steps. First month will take a little bit longer, no doubt. The next month will take far less time. And then it becomes just a simple process of exception reporting because the vendor's made a mistake. Okay. That's what we're seeing our like the heaviest users, of which there's many actually on this call, which is so cool to sort of see you guys and chat with you again. Cool. I'll just bring up the chat in case there's anyone. Okay, cool. So next step, direct Microsoft integration. We've obviously been talking about this for a while now, and it's likely to be released in the next couple of weeks. And I just want to walk through what it was that caused a delay, what information we're going to be displaying, and what you can expect like ASAP. Okay, so the information that we're displaying here, and we've always wanted to solve the whole NCE issue. So see this old name. So we started CloudOlive roughly about the same time this NCE thing started to come down from Microsoft. We were like at the time, oh my God, that's going to be a headache. There's so many questions and unknown. I don't know how this is going to roll out globally. Let's buy the domain NCEasy, and at some point, let's go and try and solve that thing once we truly understand it at a ridiculous granular level. Okay, so we've been watching this thing for a very long time, watching the pains, helping solve the pains. And it's always come from the vendor invoice or distributor invoice. It is really, really important to note that the vendor invoice process will never go away because that's the amount of money that leaves your bank. When we feed straight into the Microsoft integration, straight into Partner Center, you don't get costs. Likewise, we've seen it time and time again where GDAP issues from an integration perspective means that you're getting, there's more cost going from your from your distributor than is even visible from your own partner center. So it is fundamental. And there's tons of other little quirks, like your customers bought X number direct, or like a number of other little nuance pieces to it. But the invoice is king when it comes to reconciling costs back to your bank. Always. That thing will never go away. There are, however, many problems that we can go ahead and solve with you. So initially, the whole idea here is that we pull through all of the clients, the services from your partner center. This is a direct feed via API. And then we can see how many, what they would class as available use licenses. And where this is useful is that thing should match your invoice. If this is an NCE, which pretty much everyone is now pretty much across the board, that number 3 in this instance, that should match your invoice from Ingram or Dicker or Ripe or Pax8 or wherever you're buying your Microsoft from. So that's important to verify in one part of the system. However, there's only 2 people actually assigned to these 3 licenses. Again, I'm sure you're going, yeah, it's super common that. The other piece is, we've got this admin at license. That's an internal SKU. We don't bill for that. So now we've got 2 useful numbers, the 3 that we can pair somewhere, and also the number 1. That number 1 is what your client is expecting when it's a per user type of arrangement, okay? So again, if you sort of come back one step and go, oh, hang on, CloudOlive has built this pretty cool grouping capability when it comes to user-based up here. Up here, it's like, yeah, we should actually know the assigned count down to the individual email address holder, because we believe that's the lowest common denominator when we're taking it from the client perspective, okay? We feel like we've got really close to, we feel like we've solved the lowest common denominator from the vendor side in the way we can create things from scratch. Our job now is to pair those things in a really simple manner that gives you unlimited control in the way you want to sort of expose the any gaps and or revenue opportunities. So we will maybe not iteration 1, but we'll build a way to, like very soon anyway, we'll build a way to hide or toggle away or dismiss individual line items or tag it as direct purchase. So it's then not included in the counts we want to verify back to maybe anything user-based. So what's going to be shipped in the next couple of weeks, 100% across the board, this information here from accounts, the assigned users, like, again, useful information, no doubt, all right? Where we've had inconsistent data coming back from certain partners, it seems like a 50-50, and this is where, this has been the delay, right? We've been trying to understand why is it been slightly inconsistent. So we have partners that sync in with us, immediately everything here populates. They're tier 2 MSPs buying from whichever distributor out there. We can see their monthly billing frequency. We can see the commitment. We get the expiration. And Enrico, who's on this call, has been through hundreds and hundreds of line items to actually manually verify that everything looks good based on an invoice. And it does. It's awesome. Like, this is what we eventually want to get everybody across. We're just in the phase where it's a hard technical problem to solve, like many other things that were very hard at once upon a time and are now in the product and being solved. So it's just an iterative process to get this right. What we can rely on, though, is all the unit counts and the assigned counts and all the stuff. That seems to be really solid across the board. It's this stuff here from the right that we want to deliver like ASAP. When you sync, it's a coin flip at the moment, whether or not the data is just going to compile in a way you go, you'll be happy with it. Okay, so just keep an eye on this. We'll send out plenty of information in the next couple of weeks in terms of when it, like, how to build the app within Microsoft and sync it all together. It is just a new, I'm in the dev thing. It is a new Microsoft integration that you would just key in here. So put the codes and everything, but we'll send you all the information so you can go through that in your own time. Okay, cool. So here's the QR code to get access to the FAQ that we've got there. And if anybody's got any questions or thoughts or anything around anything, by all means, ask away. I'll just leave that there for everyone to go through. I would say I really appreciate those who wrote back 2-hour request in terms of what did you want to go through. It really helps us sort of focus our efforts into what would be useful. And the fact that there were tons of queries and questions around like those types of categories, we feel very grateful to be in a position where we speak with MSPs every day, been in the industry for a really long time, have a unique lens on this problem, and just unique access to the ways in which people are doing things. So after this call, if there's any questions you've got personally around the way you're doing things, thinking about things, like we're always available to have a chat. You can obviously just reach me at adam@cloudolive.com. And if you're thinking about sending net new vendors to us, just pop them over to support@cloudolive.com and the team will get them straight up and in. No questions asked. Okay. So if there's no questions at the moment, we'll obviously just wrap that up there. But yeah, just want to thank everyone for taking the time and hope you found it of use. Feedback always welcome, but we appreciate you doing business with us, and we're going to be here for a very long time building this with you. You can trust us on that. So have a good day, everyone. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks,
Thanks,
Megan.
Adam.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.